Yeah, I'm Tom Davidson, Communications Manager at nDreams.
Hi, David CORLESS. I am VP of Publishing at nDreams.
I'm James Howard. I'm the co-founder at Purple Yonder.
So can we first talk about some of the challenges when making a city simulator game in VR? Just the user interface alone had to have been a major challenge for your team.
Yeah, it was actually, we've probably gone through about 5 different iterations of the interface, just because there's so many challenges for how you just want to tell the player all these things that are going on in the simulation and give them ways that they can build and create their city. And we really wanted to kind of step away from the sort of what you might see on a PC, where you've got lots of big kind of graphs and windows, things like that, make it very accessible. I think we've done a great job in making it a game that anyone can pick up and play.
In terms of the VR world in general, it's the wild west of VR development. So can you guys talk about some things that you've learned throughout the development process, specifically from VR, as opposed to if this game is just a regular city sim builder?
Yeah, I think that some of the challenges have been that something that you might think would just work from like PC or something in VR, you just find isn't going to fly. So just being able to have this kind of perspective where you could be looking over the entire city at once. Obviously, you've got performance things to worry about, because on a traditional game you can kind of restrict the view, and players can build whatever they want. So we don't know ahead of time how they're going to lay out their city. So there was a ton of work done really early on, just to make it as just approaching performance-wise, making it run really well on the Quest, and also making it look really good as well. Because one of the other things we found was that players can zoom in and out, they can lean in and look at the little details, and we had to just hone our art style to make the most out of what you get on a headset.
Your studio is known for a lot of VR, not necessarily, they're not ports, but VR experiences or VR spin-offs of popular games. When you're developing those as opposed to your own IP, are there any limitations you do? Are you allowed to be more creative with your own games?
The game you're probably referring to is Far Cry, and we did the Far Cry experience for the VR arcades, and it's great to work with such a fantastic IP, and of course it comes with some limitations, but both Ubisoft and Zero Latency understand that VR is a different medium, so you have to design the game to take advantage of the platform that it's on. But certainly when we are creating our own games, something like Fract or last year Phantom, what we always have looked at nDreams over the years is to really lean into the VR. What makes VR different? Why can you not play this game on a flat screen, on a medium, whether it's PlayStation, Xbox, PC, whatever? So, something like Phantom, clearly with the kayaking simulation, of rowing, through the waterlogged environment and taking out the enemies hiding in the reeds. It's kind of something you can only do in VR, and I think a lot of people picked up on that. And that's kind of the approach that we take. We're publishing Purple Yonder's Little Cities, and it's the same approach when we're looking for games for that third party. And as soon as we saw Little Cities and seeing that Purple Yonder designed this city creator from VR first and foremost in their minds, and from the ground up, and it just worked so well. It was an obvious choice to be our first title to publish.
There's so many different VR headsets nowadays, between the PSVR, the Oculus Quest, the HTC Vive, even the Index has one. How do you guys decide on which platform you're going to work for? And if, like, for example, like the Oculus Quest is its own self-contained ecosystem, but you can also plug it into your computer and use it as a powerhouse there. Like, how do you guys go about deciding what you're going to optimize for, which headset's the best, which modes you're going to want to use? Obviously, the more accessible, the better, but just paint me a little picture.
Certainly from nDreams' side, and James may have a different, answer to this one, but obviously a certain amount of commercial understanding needs to come into play. You want to create games for the platforms in which they're going to do really well on, but then also depends what sort of game you are creating. So something like Phantom, actually, it started life as a PC. We thought it was going to be on the PC VR headsets, but then we had to change it as soon as you saw the potential of the Quest as a platform and the market and the size that it was growing. So, that then added additional challenges to go from a PC game to then get it to work, to be as content complete on the Quest platform. But then also, the PlayStation VR, different control in terms of the Move controllers versus the hand controllers of the PC VR and Quest platforms. That adds different challenges as well. But they're all great platforms. So it really depends the sort of game that we're doing and leaning into what makes those platforms great.
Yeah, just to add to that, with Little Cities, like it began way back in like 2018 as this sort of prototype that I was building on the side, and when the first Quest came out, and I got one as soon as I possibly could, and just started playing around with it, and then took my prototype of Little Cities onto the Quest, and it just transformed it, because instead of playing with PC, quite often you end up kind of sitting down at your computer. But when you're playing on Quest and you have the freedom, there's no wires, you can move around however you want. That feeling of just being able to like lean in and take like a look at your city, like it really just changed the whole feel of it, and it's just such a perfect fit.
Well, game development is everywhere. I mean, it's in America, in Canada, EU, UK, Japan, you name it. But are there any specific challenges when having a studio in the UK at all, like for your team?
So we actually we work with our team remotely. So we have an artist who's in South Africa, for example. I think that we've all sort of got used to working remotely anyway with the pandemic and that just becoming the norm. So I think that, we've kind of adapted to that really well.
And as a follow-up to that, has the stay-at-home orders and COVID, have they affected the development of Little Cities at all?
No, it actually hasn't, because we've always all worked remotely on it. So it started off as something that a few of us who were working on it just in our spare time in the evening. So we were just used to working that way anyway. And then when we looked at it, we're like, actually, this is going to be, we want to make this into something bigger and we want to work on this full time. It just kind of naturally fell into that flow.
So now that we're still dealing with COVID and the new Omicron variant and all that great stuff, do you guys see VR arcades coming back anytime soon? Do you think that those will eventually, come back?
I mean, from my side, actually, looking at some of the reports, the audiences have started to go back, and the players have started to go back to the arcade, and you saw that over the summer. Obviously, with Zero Latency and the work we did with them with Far Cry, we know that I think that drove ticket sales at Zero Latency up by 40%. And I've seen other reports from some of the other sort of players there. So I think clearly summer everyone felt in a better place, and COVID is always, it feels like for a while anyway, it's going to be a concern, but it seems that a lot of these arcades have put processes in place and to try and ensure that they're as safe as possible, and clearly that's the right thing to do. So,
are you guys looking at Oculus Quest exclusivity? For how long? Do you plan on coming to other headsets, PSVR, Vive?
So we're just concentrating on Quest at the moment, so it'll be Quest 1 and 2, and that's just our key focus at the moment to get it working well on there.
So talk a little more about Little Cities. Is there multiplayer? Can other people come look at your city island? Can you go to other people's islands? Is there any multiplayer aspect of this game at all?
So it's a single player game. The game itself has multiple different islands that you'll get to build upon. So each of those islands will have their own sort of theme, they have their own gameplay mechanics, and their own sort of challenges as playing with them. And then you also kind of unlock unique buildings which are specific to that particular island, which will affect your city in different ways. So there's like a bunch of different things that you can play with, and each island will have its own kind of feel to it.
And then you guys, can you, for the people who aren't familiar with VR, you have two options. You have seated and room scale play. Can you kind of go into what those two options are for people who are maybe relatively new to VR?
We wanted to make Little Cities as kind of accessible as possible. With the room scale, you know, if you've got like a big living room space, you can basically have your city kind of shrunk down a little bit, and you can actually just walk around in the play space and build your city. Or alternatively, like if you just want to sit back on the sofa and play, then you can do that too. So you can just sit down and you can play that way. And one thing we've actually found was that from people who've been playing the game, a lot of people play for like a really long time. Like we gave a build to some friends of ours, and then they ended up playing it until their battery ran out on the Quest, because it's the kind of game where it's not like exhausting like some of the other VR games where it's very action intense. Like you can just kind of sit back and you can relax, you can go play your own pace. And we've had sort of anecdotes where some people who might find that they feel get like VR sickness from certain games, like they find that they're completely comfortable and can play for really long periods of time in this. So it's really kind of a relaxing experience, which is what we're going for.
And I think that's, yeah, as James just said, that's one of the key things about Little Cities is, you know, the relaxing side of the game. You know, it's got a very cozy atmosphere, and whether it's just the, you know, the relaxing music and the way that they've approached a city builder, it's just, you know, we've started to see, you know, one of the creators out there who's had early access to the game has tweeted recently that it's their now go-to game just to when they need a bit of relaxation time. And in fact, I think Tom said similar when I was speaking to him the other day. He's obviously only been with us recently, so it's got that feel to it in that it is very much laid back and relaxed, and you know, there's a mindfulness to it, which, you know, clearly we're just talking about the pandemic. That's you know, such an important thing for everyone these days, and it's great that Little Cities can provide that for a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of the sort of themes actually came about from when we were stuck at home and we couldn't go on a holiday, and you know, things were also very stressful, and we just wanted to make this game which was like an escape from reality a bit, you know, and kind of the idea of that you can build a place which is somewhere you'd want to go on holiday, somewhere you'd like to visit, somewhere you could see yourself just going and relaxing and having a nice time.
You guys have a lot of games out on PlayStation VR, with the PlayStation 5s being out, although you can't really find any right now, or probably not for the next 2 years. What do you think that'll affect the ecosystem, David, on your side, when people start getting more PS5s and want to see more VR titles that are better, that look better, that can be bigger scale, more particles, higher textures on the specifically the PS5, if they ever do make a PlayStation VR headset for the PS5?
You have started to see that even on the current generation of VR platforms, that, you know, what users are and what players are wanting is more content, deeper content, more engaging content, that they're going to spend more time in it. And you're starting to see that, you know, whether it's games, you know, James just mentioned about playing the game, you know, one of his friends playing the game until the battery headset ran out. You're starting to see that a lot more, actually. You know, you speak to Oculus, you know, whether it's players in Onward or Population 1. And then even, you know, games like Resident Evil 4, which, you know, on a flat screen TV, I think was about 20 hours long as a game experience. So, you know, the need and want for bigger and deeper games is, you're starting to see that now, and one would presume that you know, for the next round of you know, the next headsets, whether it is the next PlayStation 1, whether it's, you know, the new Oculus One that they announced more recently, or, you know, the current Quest family and PC headsets and all the headsets out there, that people are getting more and more used to VR. They're starting to understand what's great about VR, what works in VR, and they're getting excited about it and wanting to spend more and more time in headset playing the games that they like. So I think this just continues to grow as the platform continues to mature and grows and develops. So yeah, so it's an exciting time.
As more headsets is released, not just VR headsets, but just technology as it improves over time, you know, with the NVIDIA GPUs and CPU chips, does that help or hinder development if you're in the middle of making or publishing a game and a new headset's announced or a new dev kit's announced or new compatibilities announced?
Well, it reminds me of when we were working on our first sort of high-end VR title, The Assembly, years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it was. And we developed that before hand controllers had even been announced or developed. So we were, you know, developing the game with a game controller, a gamepad in mind. And then so you release the game, and then 6 months later, you know, there's hand controllers everywhere. So you're having to go back. And you know, clearly at the start of a brand new technology like VR, you're gonna bump into issues like that. But otherwise, it's, you know, we all work in a tech industry in which tech is updating so fast and so quickly. You know, maybe on consoles it's slightly different because, you know, they stay around for a while, but even within that, there's technologies that you're always trying to improve and take advantage of. So I think you kind of get used to it as a developer, you know, and James may, you know, from all his years, can probably answer to that as well.
Yeah, at the same time, it's quite an exciting thing. Personally, is like when you see that next kind of level, the next step, and you start to kind of think about what can we do with this? Like, what can we introduce to our games now? Now we've got, like DC was saying, when hand controllers came in, that kind of opened up a whole new set of possibilities for what your game could be. And now we're looking at, say, with the Quest line, you've got hand tracking, and it's like we're thinking about what can we do with that, and you know, there's always something else around the corner, and I think it keeps development exciting, you know.
Awesome. And then where can people go to find more information about your studio and about your game, and how can they support it?
Well, certainly for nDreams, you know, you'll find us online, nDreams.com, but also obviously on Twitter and the usual social platforms out there, and same for Purple Yonder. You'll find them on Twitter, and you know, we've only just scratched the surface of Little Cities. There's a lot more to announce. You know, the game's not coming out until spring, and I think people will be excited about some of the announcements that will be breaking at some point, and as we move closer to launch.